Seems pretty telling right now that we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic and the Democratic frontrunner for president, Joe Biden, is MIA. Hiding Biden. Where are you at, Joe? The public, the voters, haven't seen you during this, hugely important time in this country's history, and the best we can get from you are some tweets on Twitter about how you and your team are figuring out ways to, you know, broadcast online through social media or these different, online platforms to be able to engage and get your message out there, when obviously that's just a, you know, huge lie, because we see all of the outreach that Bernie Sanders and his team is able to do over the internet. Bernie Sanders held a virtual roundtable online earlier today about the coronavirus pandemic, what the government has been doing, what they should be doing, bringing on these different people from these different sectors to get their input and opinion. It's not that hard to figure out how to, conduct a live stream or a virtual roundtable like Bernie Sanders did. It's obviously the strategy of Biden's campaign to, again, hide in Biden, keep Joe Biden out of the view of the voters, the public. The less he speaks, the better. But I mean, if he's not able to get out there in a virtual sense, not even having to go out and campaign vigorously, but not even make an appearance once a day like Bernie Sanders has been doing during this pandemic, how is he going to be able to campaign really strongly to defeat Donald Trump in a general election? The answer is obviously he's not going to be able to. We need an actual Democratic nominee who's going to be able to vigorously campaign to defeat Donald Trump, because that's not going to be an easy task. And then again, Joe Biden and his team were encouraging voters to go out and vote during this pandemic, saying it was safe, even though the CDC and all these public health officials and agencies were saying that was, don't go out in these large groups, practice social distancing, quarantine, stay away from people. So again, Joe Biden, his team, the Democratic establishment doesn't give a shit if the average working person lives or dies. They're just concerned about getting Biden in power because he represents the interest of the corporations. That's why for example, his healthcare plan leaves 10 million people uninsured. And this is how just truly disgusting Joe Biden's policies are. He said he would veto Medicare for All bill if it somehow was able to pass the House and the Senate. He would veto that. And then again, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and Joe Biden is saying he would veto a Medicare for All bill. Hugely, hugely disgusting, and it would make sense. Joe Biden's the supposed Democratic frontrunner. He should be out there every day calling out, in a virtual sense, all of the shortcomings that the Trump administration has demonstrated and continues to demonstrate with regards to their response or lack of response, more often than not, due to the coronavirus pandemic. Bernie Sanders is doing that. He's offering solutions going forward. Joe Biden sends out this completely ridiculous tweet saying how his team is trying to figure out ways for Joe Biden to get his message out there online in a virtual sense. It's like, no, not that fucking hard to figure that out, Joe. I'm sure you got some smart enough people on your team could help you with that, but the people on your team, your advisors, are wanting to keep you out of the public's eye because your cognitive decline is pretty apparent. You're not able to really engage in this political process as strenuously as you need to be, and that's a huge concern. Not to mention his horrible policies on things like healthcare, wanting to cut Social Security, Medicare in the past, doesn't support legal weed, supported the Iraq War, doesn't support free college, doesn't support canceling student loan debt. All of these things, he's hugely regressive. And I mean, honestly, the one of the benefits for Biden is unfortunately this whole coronavirus epidemic, how just hugely negatively impacted the economy has been. That's one of the things that Trump was going to run on for this election, was the strength of the economy. And again, that's why Trump, to a certain extent, is outflanking Democratic leadership, people like Pelosi, people like Schumer, because Trump sees, well, if the economy keeps going this shitty, I'm going to have a really hard chance of getting elected. And Biden's not even out there calling for the pretty modest measures that the Trump administration is calling for. And I saw a thing, he didn't even support these different policy measures to make sure that the coronavirus vaccine would either be affordable or free, because again, he's bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical industry and the health insurance companies. That's why he doesn't support Medicare for All, even though it saves $450 billion, it's billion with a B, dollars a year, equivalent to, I believe it's about 13% savings on healthcare for the U.S. population, as well as saving 68,000 lives. We won't have 500,000+ people going bankrupt each year due to medical debt. Joe Biden's corrupt. He's completely bought and paid for by big business, and that's who he would represent when in office. And even with our economy just completely going in the economy is a complete dumpster fire right now. It's like 1 out of 5 households in the U.S. has either had somebody laid off from their job, or their hours have been reduced. I think Goldman Sachs reported that one of their analysts thought that, I believe it was 2.5 million people, based on their projections, filed for unemployment this week alone. I believe it was the most that's ever happened in a 1-week time period. It's pretty stark and troubling times, and yet Joe Biden isn't able to muster up, a 5 to 10 minute, little YouTube or Facebook video that his team can post online to at least show they're making somewhat of an effort to have the Democratic frontrunner, talk about and give their thoughts about this coronavirus pandemic. I mean, if you're supporting Biden at this point, you're nuts, honestly, to support Biden over Bernie, in my opinion. But if you support Biden at this point, hiding Biden, why is your candidate, why is the Democratic frontrunner, why is he MIA? Why is he nowhere to be seen in this hugely trying and just crazy important time with all the stuff that's going around with this coronavirus pandemic, the public health aspect of it, the lack of Trump, taking it seriously to begin with, delaying the tests, all of that stuff. And then you have the economic side of it, that, we need, greatly increase our unemployment insurance. We need to cancel all student loan debt. We need to make sure the treatment is free. All these things we don't hear or see Joe Biden. He has the tweet, oh, maybe my team will get it ready by Monday and you'll see me out there. I haven't seen me in a week, but I'll be there on Monday maybe, if my team can figure out this really simple technology thing to get me to be able to broadcast online on this internet webs thing. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is really the person that the Democratic establishment wants to prop up to go against Donald Trump. It's not looking too good. He's not, again, this is such a important time in U.S. political history, just U.S. history in general. We're facing a pandemic. Literally, potentially millions of people in the U.S. could die, and Joe Biden's nowhere to be seen during this hugely important time. While again, Bernie Sanders out there consistently saying what needs to be done. His policy, I believe, calls for everybody getting 2K a month for the duration of this pandemic, 1K for kids, I believe, as well as 100% unemployment insurance up to $75,000 a year, moratorium on evictions, foreclosures, no student loan debt, all these types of things. And he had this virtual roundtable today on the pandemic, and Biden, crickets. Maybe you'll hear from me Monday. Hiding Biden. Again, Bernie is the only choice. You think the Democratic establishment would rather have 4 more years of Trump than a Bernie Sanders presidency. That's why they're propping up corporatist, neoliberal Joe Biden with huge, serious, very apparent cognitive decline. It's sad, but it's the case.